I'm going to hand you now over straight away to Gerard, who's going to take you through some of the shortcuts and tricks to navigate around traces. Gerard, over to you.
Thank you very much, Peter. So my name is Gerard McCallig. As Peter has said, I'm going to show you things that you can do in advance of October the 1st to prepare on traces. So these are my learning outcomes for today. These are the things that I would hope you can take from this presentation. The first 3 items are applicable to all FBO traces users as of today. Everyone in attendance can do the first 3 options. The final 2 I'll go into a little bit more depth later. They're only applicable to certain certificate types, and number 5 is only done in conjunction with your local veterinary office, the certifying body. So the first thing that I'd like you to take for today is how to add GB consignees and places of destination. The second thing is how you can add your Irish or EU transporters and your non-EU transporters. And the third thing that I'd like to take you through on the live traces side today is how to locate and use the import tool. The import tool is particularly useful if you're uploading a number of commodities to the traces site. Number 4, as I said, these are not going to be applicable to all attendees. However, I'm going to show you how you can save certificates as a draft. This enables you to copy as new in future. And the idea here is that you can create essentially a database of certificates that you will have prepared in advance of October the 1st. And these certificates will have retained much of the information that you've input so that you can copy as new. So the workload for October the 1st will be lessened. And then point 5 is the second step for that copy as new. You can, with the assistance of your veterinary office, progress those certs just one step further, and the information that the veterinary staff will have to certify can be put in at that stage. But I'll come to that in more depth later. As of now, I'm going to take you to the Traces live site, and I'm going to briefly cover how you can do the first 3 steps. So I'm going to go into the Traces live site, and I am on the Export Health Certificate screen. Now, these are consignments I've created earlier. I'll go over those at a later stage. What I'm going to do now is the first thing that you do if you wanted to generate a certificate is you'd come down here and you'd click on New. Once you have that done, as Kevin showed you earlier, you can enter your nomenclature code. Currently, as it was explained, only the 4-digit codes are working. However, you can also choose by cert, as Kevin showed. What I'm going to take you through today is how you'd add consignees, places of destination, and transporters under the bovine fresh meat cert. However, please be aware, you can actually enter this information on any GB cert and the system will save it. Because what we're trying to do is have the system log your customers in Great Britain, your transporters, so that this does not need to be added come October the 1st. So I'm just going to select this fresh meat cert. As you can see here, once I have this cert selected, the CN codes that are currently active under this cert appear. So I click this plus icon to show them, and then I click the CN code that applies to my cert. As Kevin explained, only the 4-digit CN codes for this particular cert are working. So I click on 0201 to assign that CN code to this cert. That's the fresh bovine meat CN code. I see here that Bos taurus has been selected. That is the species. I can be confident that's correct, and I click on Assign. So while this screen is relevant when you're ultimately creating these certs, I'm just going to bring you through those 3 key items that I explained to you, how to add your consignees, your places of destination, and your transporters. However, I'm also, because I'm saving as a draft, going to show you the information that is required in the system to save as a draft and use the import tool. The first item I do here, whenever you're creating a certificate, is the first thing you do is you enter your consignor. So that's the food business operator. What I have done here, and what should be available to you all, is if you put in your FBO DAFM approval number, or your local authority approval number, or your HSE approval number, you can enter that in this row here, and you click Assign. When I have that done, you'll see I have 2 options appear on my screen. So the first option is importer. That's if I was importing product into Ireland. The second is the establishment. The establishment is the option I will select, because that will then assign my food business operator as the establishment, and it will also assign my food business operator as the place of origin. So as I said, the thing that I want you to take first of all is how you add your GB consignee. So you can see here box 1.5 consignee. Ultimately, what you can do once the system is working correctly, and once you have this done, you enter GB here, you enter your British customer's approval code and you can click assign. However, until they are registered to the system, that is not functional. So at the outset, when you're creating these certs, the first thing you should do is click on select in box 1.5 consignee. You can see here you'll have a country drop down box and you select United Kingdom. And then when you've selected United Kingdom, you come down here. Now you can, if you were searching for your customer, you could actually enter their name in the search box here where you see name and you could search for them. However, if they haven't been entered previously, what you need to do is click on new non-member state. You'll see here, it brings up this screen and you enter the details of your UK customer. I'll do it here now very quickly just to show you how that would happen. So you enter, so I'm just going to go GB customer 2. Now you can see here I have it done previously, so the information is retained in the system. That I picked 10 Downing Street previously, and then but you enter the full address of your GB customer here, and then you select the city. Now this is vital. You cannot proceed with this until you select the city. So the city for me would be London. However, because it's a specific address in London, I can enter the postal code to which I'm aware, and I can click search. And as you can see, once I've clicked search, the London postal code that I have entered has come up on my screen, and I can click select. So that then has applied the postal code to my particular organization. The next thing, and this is absolutely vital, I want to bring it to your attention. When you see this box over here, approval numbers, the first thing that you have to do is you have to select importer for it is a GB customer that is importing. The second thing you do is you enter their approval number. So their approval number will be the approval number used previously by that GB organization. If they do not have an approval number, what we have recommended is that you enter their postal code. You can see here I have done that previously. This is the postal code for that particular address. Please note, if the approval number has been put in previously, the same approval number cannot be entered again. So I have entered this approval number previously. So if I attempted to save this particular customer, it would not allow me to do so. So if you experience that problem, what we have recommended is just quite simply put in a full stop after their approval code, and then that should suffice. Then you make sure you have to click on in certificate. If you do not click on in certificate on this screen, again, you cannot save your customer. So make sure you click on in certificate. After you've entered your importer, the second item you enter, and this is because, as Peter explained at the outset and has been explained by other participants previously, traces currently isn't coded 100% correctly. So importer should be entirely sufficient, but currently it is not. So to work around that and to add your place of destination, you select non-approved establishment, you enter your approval number again, you quite simply copy and paste, and once you've that done, that is all of the information required to enter your GB consignee. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to click save. So as you can see, once that's done, the system will now retain my British customer forevermore. So if I wanted to assign that British customer in future, like I said previously, all I'd have to do is enter GB as the country code, enter their postal code here and click assign. Now, again, because Traces isn't particularly functional at the moment, this also should work in this box, my place of destination. Because I've entered it as a non-approved establishment, I should functionally be able to enter my GB customer's code here, click assign, and it should apply it to the system. And as you can see, it hasn't. These are ones I've entered previously. You can see it's GB customer and GB importer 2, but these are not the ones I've entered now, which is a good thing to show you because sometimes the system will not work as expected. So these are not my customer. My customer was GB customer 2. If that occurs and the customer does not come up, it's the exact same process as I showed you previously. It's you click on new non-member state and you follow the exact same process. You enter all of the details for your British customer or the place of destination, and you click save. Now, as I have done previously, I'm not going to bother doing it now. What I'm going to use is my other GB customer, the customer that I've up here, and I'm going to click select. But that's functionally how you'd add both your GB customers and your places of destination in Great Britain. The next thing I'm going to show you, I'm going to skip consignment, I'll come back to it, but it's the transporter screen. So again, when you have your Irish transporter's approval number known to you and they're on the system, you can again select IE as your approval code here, and you can enter your transporter details like I have here. This is a test case that I've created previously, and you click Assign. So once the details are registered with the system, it is that easy to select your transporter. However, if the transporter isn't in the system, you functionally follow the same process as adding a consignee or replace a destination. On the transporter box, which is 1.17, you click Select. And from this drop-down box, you select the country of origin of the transporter. Now, as you can see, every country in the world is listed here. And the reason I want to explain this is for Ireland, you can enter your transporter's detail by clicking New. Because Ireland is obviously an EU member state, it's not new non-member state, it's new. However, if you're adding an Irish transporter, you'll have to enter it here again. EU transporters have to be validated on traces by the competent authority. So if you're adding an Irish transporter to the system, please contact traces-VPHIS-reg at agriculture.gov.ie, informing us that you've added an Irish transporter to the system that you'd like to have validated. Myself or Kevin Williams man that inbox and we will get to your request. Similarly, if you're adding a GB transporter, it can be done by, or GB or any non-EU transporter that is, it can be added by clicking on New Non-Member State. And again, the functional process, once you've clicked on New Non-Member State, is the same. You enter the details of your transporter, you select their country, and you click Save. Once that's done, those details will be therefore registered to the system in advance of October the 1st, and you won't have to do that then, saving yourself quite a bit of time. The next item I'm going to bring to your attention, actually, I'm just going to input my transporter here so I can save this as a draft at the end. Sorry, a moment. The next item I want to bring to your attention is how to locate and find the import tool. So once my screen updates, sorry, there we go. This is the consignment screen. This is where the bulk of the work will be done. You can see here it's asking me for a number of information, and potentially there could be 15, 20 rows here. So if I want to manually enter all of these rows, I could, but in advance of October the 1st, what we're recommending is, you'll see here on my screen in the middle of the box I-25, identification of commodities, there is this import function. Now, we had this in our previous webinar. It was a question. The import function will only work for box 125. You're unable to upload all of the information on traces with the CSV file. However, you are able to fill in this box I-25 or 125 using the import tool. So for every consignment and every certificate that you'll generate, whether it's a bovine meat cert, a porcine meat cert, a meat preparation cert, or a meat product cert, each individual certificate will have a template. For that certificate or for that import tool template, you must choose that cert. So for me now, it's the bovine fresh meat cert. You can see the cert that I'm using here. As I said, if you were using a meat preparation, if you wanted to prepare your import tool for the meat prep cert, you'd go to the meat prep cert and you'd come to this screen, the consignment screen, and you'd click on import. When you've clicked on import, you'll see here on my screen, once it is updated, it outlines the expected format for the import tool here on the right-hand side of my screen. I'm going to download the template so that you can see it now. One moment. So this is the template of the import tool. It's not very intuitive at a glance, but once you get used to it, it's actually quite easy to operate. The first thing I always recommend that you do is you delete the first 2 rows. The first 2 rows are quite simply a guide on how to enter information, but if they're there when you try to upload the CSV file, it will not work. So you delete those first 2 rows, and then quite simply, you separate out these rows. I'm going to click text to columns. I'm delimiting the columns. I'm going to select a semicolon so that I split my information. So now all of these have been applied to their appropriate column so that I may enter information into them. Now, traces, as I said earlier, is not particularly intuitive and it's not particularly advanced. So when you're entering information into this CSV file, I want to bring to your attention that you have to format the information in the exact method outlined here. So for species, you have to enter the information, for example, 1. So this is a bovine fresh meat cert. It would be 1.bos with the case exactly like that. If you don't have the case formatted exactly as it's outlined here, the system quite simply will not accept the information. But now that I have that on the screen, I'm going to show you how it would look when it has been prepared in full. This is one I have prepared earlier, and it's correctly formatted. You can see here now all of the information has been input into the system. It's formatted correctly with the appropriate case. I'm not even sure if cuts is correct, but we'll see in a moment. So this is how the import tool will look like when it is formatted correctly. If you want to take a screenshot of that now, like I said, it's just make note of the column headings, how they're laid out and how the information is put in under it. But you will download the import tool from the Traces site that is appropriate to that particular certificate. So I'm going to not save that. I'm going to close these and I'm going to show you how it looks when it's done. So to upload a completed CSV file, you quite simply click on File here. You'll see here, this is the file I have prepared, and you choose it from your computer. And then when you have that done, you come down to the bottom of your screen and you click on Upload. And when you have that done, sorry, my screen will update now in a second. You can see here all of the information that I had input onto my CSV file has now been accepted by the system. So you'll also please make note, when you use the import tool, again, Trace is not the most intuitive. There will be blank rows. So to submit a consignment for certification, you do have to remove those. So you just quite simply click remove on the blank rows. But now all of the information for my consignment that I have imported into the system is there. So when I have this done now, what I can actually do is at this stage, I can save this particular consignment as a draft. And I'm going to show you now, and I'm going to go back to my presentation. I'll come back to the Traces live site, but I'm going to go over why saving as a draft is useful. So I'm going to enter my password here. I'm going to click on this box and I'm going to save this consignment as a draft. And now when I'm doing this myself, what I have done previously is you see this draft code here that has appeared on screen, draft IE 2021-2503. I'm saving these codes to a database because I know now I have created a template consignment that I can use in future. So I'm just going to go over this now. So this is saving as a draft and using copy as new. So the reason you might wish to do this, like I said, is this enables the FBO user to copy as new this drafted expert health certificate when exporting a similar consignment subsequent to October the 1st. And what we're recommending is that you create a draft of each certificate that you require per order and per customer. So you could have quite a number, an inordinate amount of these draft certificates prepared. So what I've recommended and what I've done for myself here, just for the purposes of training, is I have created these draft consignments, created a database for myself that I have listed all of these EHCs so that when I want to create a certificate in future that has a consignment, I can go to my database. This is the database I've created for myself. I can look here and go, okay, my order reference is X. I need that cert again. And I go to the Traces system, search for this draft number, and I can copy as new and basically use the information that I've input previously again, saving myself an inordinate amount of time. So I'm just going to bring you back to the Traces live site to show you how that would function. So this is the draft copy I created just there a moment ago. So when I copy as new, you'll see certain information has been retained, certain information has been removed from the system. The one thing I'd like to bring to your attention on this screen, now I didn't do it for mine, but you will have to upload attachments, your CMR, your commercial documents that you will have to supply to the department so that we can verify the details of consignments. They'll have been added here for validated consignments, but for the draft purposes, they do not need to be added, but they will be removed. When you copy as new, any attachments will be removed. So please be mindful of that. Then on the trader's screen, you'll see my consignor and consignee has been retained. Please be aware that, again, Traces is not a completely functional site. Sometimes the consignee will drop out. You will have to chase that, but or change that occasionally. But what you'll see here is the place of destination has changed. So please be aware that the place of destination has changed. Again, when you come to the consignment screen, the gross weight will always be empty. So when you copy as new, you will have to input the gross weight again. And then on the transport screen, my transporter has dropped out. Normally it's retained. Again, Traces not fully functional, but normally your transporter will be present, but the means of transport won't be. So that will need to be changed. And the seal and container numbers that you've entered previously will always drop out. Now, if I had saved this draft with the date and time of departure as well, they will be retained. I want you to make particular note of that, especially if you're copying as new a validated cert, because what I'm advising today is that you prepare these drafts in advance of October the 1st, but once you have the first instance of this drafted cert validated by your veterinary officer, that you actually use the validated certs subsequent to that. So there will have been a date and time of departure input at that point. So I see there's a question. Also, just to make note, you can input your local reference number here. So I've done that previously. So if you saw my database, I gave myself an order code that I put in here, and you can save that information here just so that you can link the Traces website to any database you hold personally. But that's basically how you'd copy as new. And the final item I'd like to bring to your attention, so this is the minimum required information to save as a draft. It's the consigner, the consignee, the country of origin, place of origin, and box I-25 identification of commodities. If more information is known than that, you can enter that in advance of creating the draft, but in order to save as draft, this is the minimum amount of information that needs to be input into the system. And then, as I said, when you copy as new, once you have the draft saved, you can see it there. The information that's retained is as such: the consigner, country of origin, place of origin, temperature of products, what the commodities are certified for, so that they are certified for human consumption, the means of transport, date and time of departure, the EU exit point, and the entry point. All of those information, if I had input that into my draft, would have been saved. So just please make note of that. This is why it's particularly useful. It saves me having to fill in all of these boxes every single time, especially if I'm exporting similar consignments week to week, as that's what we expect will happen. You'll have repeat customers with repeat orders. This will speed up that process in that instance tremendously. So again, when you're copying as new, I'd like to bring to your attention there is load-specific information that will change and must be input. On that screen, the consignee retained, I've trialed this, that was the first time it's happened. It should be retained, but it is not always, so make sure that you check it. The place of destination will be removed, so please ensure that that's input. The gross weight will be removed, please ensure that's been input, and the seal and container number will have been removed again. Please ensure that's been input. And again, I have it here on my slide. The date and time of departure are not removed when you copy as new, and they must be edited. That will be the biggest item that'll catch you when you're copying as new, that you'll notice that the date and time of departure had been entered previously and you forgot to change it. So just please be aware of that. Now, this is the final thing that I'd like to bring to your attention. Once certs are validated, this won't be as relevant, because once we can actually validate certs after October the 1st, like I said, what you'll be doing is you'll be copying as new validated certs, and that will make everyone's life quite a bit easier. But because we can't validate certs before October the 1st, what I'm recommending, and this will have to be done in conjunction with your local veterinary officer, is that you can save your export health certificate as a draft. You can ensure that all the details are correct, and you can put in, after you've it saved as a draft, you can put in all of the information that's required to submit for certification. And once you have that done, you can let your veterinary officer, as I said, this will be done in conjunction with them. The idea of this is that you're making our lives easier as DAFM staff members, because as you can see on screen, once you've it submitted for certification, the DAFM veterinary office can save this export health certificate as in progress. This means that we can input certification information that will remain similar across similar EHCs. So for example, like I said, if you are having a repeat customer that is requesting the same order, the same goods, and this is most applicable here, the origin of the goods is the same. So if the origin of all of the products that you're exporting to GB is, say for instance, Ireland, that means that the public health and animal health attestations will remain similar across consignments, which enables the veterinary office in advance of October the 1st to push that information into the system, and they will then save as in progress. And then you, as the FBO user, when you get notified that the veterinary office has done that, you can then, when you're generating the cert on October the 1st for export, copy as new that in progress cert. It will retain the information that you've input, like I said, barring those few items that are removed and must be input. And for the veterinary office, it retains all of the information that's consistent across consignments. That is particularly useful to ensure that everyone's life is made easier in advance of October the 1st. And again, I'll just bring you back to the Traces website now, just to finish up and show you where they'd be found. So this is my Traces search screen. Sorry, I'll let my screen update. This is my Traces search screen. So as you can see here, that draft that I've entered here previously, I can copy that as new. and I can use that. And this is one that I've advanced in full. You can see here the status is in progress. I have done both steps on this particular EHC. I have entered all of the information that's needed for certification, and I've entered most of the veterinary information. The information that will change for this cert is the slaughter dates, but because I have this done now, I can copy this cert as new. And this could be, like I said, a repeat customer that I have to do this cert every single week. So I copy it as new. I add my attachments, which would be my CMR, my slaughter dates, my traceability information that the veterinary office requires to certify. I enter my consignee, my place of destination, my transporter, and my date and time of departure, and then I can submit that again to the veterinary office. And the veterinary office, because as I said, it's been saved as in progress, they will have the information that has been input previously saved to the system. You can see here now my screen's updated. All of this is applicable because I know the origin of this product is Ireland. All of the information that I've attested to here is consistent across consignments, and I quite simply, as a veterinary officer, have to come down to the bottom of my screen, enter the slaughter dates that I can verify with information that I've received from my food business operator, and then submit this consignment for certification. And as I said, we feel like that would make everyone's lives tremendously easier if this is done in advance of October the 1st, so that the workload, the bulk of the job is done, and you're just copying as new information that you've entered previously, instead of having to generate each individual certificate from scratch. So I hope that presentation was useful to you all. And with that, I'd like to hand you back to Peter Maher for the question and answer portion of today's session.